the monster under the bed, I call it. And we see this all the time. We have this structure in sport that I'm going to do this thing to get to this metaphorical top of the mountain. I'm 14 and I put 25 hours a week into this sport, believing that it has to work out, or the other option is terrible. And so I'm not even actually going to think about the other option because that's too scary, which becomes the monster under the bed.
Hey, I'm Whitney.
And I'm Greg, and this is the Unblock Yourself podcast.
We personally know what it's like to feel stuck, living on autopilot, checking all the boxes, but wondering, is this really it for me?
We genuinely love having conversations with people who are living cool lives. So we thought, hey, we should record these conversations. And by having them on a podcast, we can ask all kinds of questions to get to the bottom of how they got unblocked and are living these cool and inspiring lives.
In each episode, we'll have honest and raw conversations about the highs and lows of their journeys.
Once in a while, it will just be the two of us, sharing what we're learning along the way as we build our own lives, and where we're screwing up right alongside you.
So if you want some inspiration and actual things that you can start doing to make bolder moves and get unblocked in your own life, this podcast is for you.
Today's conversation is all about helping people to perform at their best. We're talking to Ben Fanelli, and we're going to dig into this idea of trying to control the uncontrollable and how you really shouldn't try to do that. Ben's an elite athlete. He's a former OHL star who suffered a devastating injury when he was 16. That hit changed the course of his life. Now, he talks about how he heroically came back and made a return to the ice, even captaining the team in his final season. Instead of chasing his dream to get to the big leagues, he shifted his focus to do something different. He wanted to help others do what he'd done, find their way back to peak performance and overcoming obstacles to do it. So he launched an organization called Heroic Minds. In today's episode, Ben's going to share some of his top tips on how people can perform at their best and stop trying to control the uncontrollable. And we share a bit of a funny story about how we met. It was a good lesson for us to just put ourselves out there and maybe in an awkward situation, introduce yourself to somebody and maybe one day they'll show up on your podcast. We really loved this conversation and think you will too. So enjoy this conversation with Ben Fanelli.
How was your weekend, Ben?
Yes, I was actually at Formula One this week. It was my first time seeing anything like that. And it was the most fascinating piece of the whole weekend is just my brain couldn't comprehend how fast, like it looks fake, like it looked like it was I think probably the first time in my life that I true surreal experience. Like I'm going to get the numbers probably wrong, and maybe someone listening that is an engineer or Formula One fan will be like, no, your numbers are off. But it's something like coming in, because we were at a hairpin turn. So they come in at 300, if not 300, close to 300 kilometers an hour. And then within 30 feet, gear right down and are slowing down enough that they can get around a hairpin turn. So it's ridiculous. And 5 Gs of weight on the, so then you forget that there's a human being in the vehicle because it just looks like a machine.
Right.
You look at the different cultures in sport, and I think there's tons of respect and passion and a lot of brilliant people there. I don't know, in my anecdotal kind of experience, it seems like a lot of engineering type minds that really are passionate about the sport, and all types of people, which I think is super cool. And yeah, cool event. Definitely nothing I've ever seen before.
That's so cool. We took the kids to see the Mission Impossible movie, and there was a ad or whatever for the new F1 movie coming out. And we're like, we're definitely coming to see that. Yeah.
That's very cool. You went to that with your wife, and I don't know your wife's name.
Oh, just went with Sasha's my wife, but no, just went with family friends that have gone the last 35 years. So I was being heavily educated on all the other aspects that someone like myself that is outside of the F1 world knows nothing about. But now I see why there's like the tactic and strategy that a person like myself wouldn't understand, what tires to use, when to use them, what you have to be aware of, humidity, temperature, weather, all this stuff that I would know nothing about, that makes it even more exciting once you learn those details. So
Nice.
yeah.
Did you wear earmuffs?
Yeah.
Last question on that. Earmuffs? And then we can move off F1.
I should have. It was actually really cool too. I really enjoyed F1 Academy is the female F1 drivers that's growing, WNBA, PWHL, which both I think are awesome. And yeah, that was fascinating too. So their cars weren't as loud. It was the Porsches. So there was a Porsche
Mm,
series that were way louder than the Formula One vehicles. And yeah, those were loud. I did throw
yeah.
earplugs in for that one. That was a different beast. Yeah.
That's fascinating. I know when you said last one, but if I can ask one more related,
Yeah.
as you're, I mean, resident expert in hockey and even hockey psychology, right? So do you have a sense for the psychology of one sport being and like the importance of mindset being different in one sport versus another? Like, do you have any sense or opinion on that?
It's a fascinating question, and we could talk about that alone for hours and hours, right? Like, so
I asked about earmuffs to try to keep it short, Greg, and you're like, let's talk about the like,
The psychology of sport.
well, it will all bleed in. If I know where this conversation could go, I think it will all bleed in. But I've actually we had with the group I was with, very intelligent group I was with, and we were talking about some of the behaviors of these drivers. And so, um, and then you can bleed that into the idea of what everyone loves to talk about in sport now, which is confidence. That I always remind people, it's like that's the end state. It's what leads to confidence, which is self trust. And then, so we were talking about that, and then we were also talking about that you don't have a bench of 22 other guys to come back to when things don't go well. And you've got the engineers, but there's a power dynamic there. You've got some of these coaches that are leaders of these teams, these F1 teams that also have different relationships with the drivers, where some maybe allow a little bit more wiggle room for certain behaviors and others don't. And so and then there's so much money involved in different ways, sponsorships, etc. So yeah, the dynamic was interesting. If I bring it back to the sport performance piece, I would hypothesize that there's a similarity between a goalie, a pitcher in baseball. I
hmm,
think even being at bat as a batter, learning. I don't know this from textbook. I know this anecdotally working with baseball players. That is a fascinating experience as well. Listening to what people think about at the bat, and that it becomes this power dynamic with the pitcher, and the pitcher's doing certain things subtly to try and throw them off. And it's like, well, where does your mind go? And are we letting that kind of rob us of our ability to trust ourselves, because now this pitcher's making us feel like we're 4 feet shorter than we are? So there's like this array of complexities to each sport that I'm definitely fascinated by. The biggest takeaway recently for me, you look at these F1 drivers, like I touched on earlier when we jumped on, 300 kilometers an hour. So I think the general belief from people outside of the sport would be, oh, they're fine. They don't get anxiety. They don't feel overwhelmed. They do. If we want to make it tangible, that's where it begins, is that we're labeling this thing as bad, yet it's probably the most common human emotion, feeling. That was my takeaway from this weekend, is you think these individuals are just bulletproof, fearless, etc. There's more to it.
All I was going to say is, Ben, so we're clearly doing a 5-part series, 2-hour episodes each, on mindset sport by sport, because it sounds wicked. It sounds wicked when we're here for it.
I love it. I love it.
yeah, we genuinely can't thank you enough for being here. We're just super pumped to talk to you, and we saw your keynote a couple weeks ago when we were all in the same room at the Legacy event, which was awesome.
Yeah, legacy event. I did I pulled a fanboy in a big way. You come off the stage, standing ovation, tears flowing down people's faces, all of that. It was beautiful, and I saw that it looked like you were cutting for the exit, so I pretended like I had to leave to go to the washroom, and totally intercepted you on the way out. And there were two things that I wanted. One, I just wanted to make that connection, and the other was I had been cooking at this event. So this legacy event raised over $65,000 for mental health support in our community. And what they did is they had these different chefs cook. So it was top home chef. And I was one of those competing chefs. And I wanted to ask you, person to person, you know, like, how did I do? I really wanted your opinion. It felt important to me to know if Ben Fanelli thought that I had a winning dish, because the winners hadn't been announced yet, and I wanted to know if you thought I was a winner. As a champion, I wanted to know if you thought I was worthy of the champion.
Greg didn't win, for the record.
I don't
so
know if
just
I'm
to
allowed to be honest about that. I don't know if the votes are confidential like an election, but I told Greg that he had some support for me. I don't know if apparently it didn't pay off, but no, it was amazing because it was the mac and cheese, your custom mac and cheese, was it not?
It was a fusion. Well, maybe put the recipe in the show notes of butter chicken and mac and cheese. Let that blow your mind for a minute. But the talk you gave, and in that context, I think the two tied together. That the event, again, raising money for mental health support, and your work is tied to an organization that you're building called Heroic Minds. So, as a place to start, you just maybe tell us a little bit about what Heroic Minds is on the mission to achieve.
Yeah, my mission with Heroic Minds is, and this might sound ironic, is to remove the entire mental health term. I feel, prime example, the more we hyper focus on things, usually the more tension that builds and the more difficult it becomes to move through or to solve or to engage with, right? The simple examples, remembering a word, you try harder, it's harder to do. Building relationships, the more you force them, it appears to be problematic. We change who we are and it becomes more difficult. If there's athletes listening to this, geez, I know 99.9% will be able to relate. The harder you try to make the perfect pass or the perfect play, the more difficult it becomes. And subsequently, that more effort we then put forward to try and be perfect. And when it doesn't work out, it even frustrates us even more. And so take that idea and plug it into Heroic Minds. We're endeavoring to create a platform that you don't go to just when there's a rainy day or when the flood and the storm arrives and you need support. Because I think in that model, that really reinforces the stigma that exists. Because now I have to go to this thing that isn't normally a part of my life and engage with it, and it's new, and I'm learning about it, and it's awkward and clunky. And oh, by the way, I'm also incredibly stressed right now, so I've got to go to this new thing to get help from something outside of my current resources in my day-to-day life. And so our model is to create resources, content, education, audio, video, text, whatever a user enjoys, putting that into a platform that's already embedded into their life. And then the other side to it is we encrypted, private, secure messaging to be able to engage with these professionals, book sessions with these professionals, and also jump on the virtual calls with the professionals all in one place. So trying to remove every barrier to help seeking behavior, the stigma, the cost, the logistics, the planning. People are like, oh, this isn't mental health. Beautiful. That's a win for us. Now I can jump in. Now I can engage. I don't have a problem. I'm just trying to be better. Yeah, things are really ramping up, and it's because of support from amazing people like you. So yeah, I don't know where it's all going to go. To be honest, I'm trying to plug in my own philosophies, and I know even if we get to some metaphorical top of the mountain, I know it's not going to solve everything. So I'm just enjoying the heck out of this journey and learning a mile a minute. Yeah, thank you for asking, but that's Heroic Minds right now.
That's awesome.
Just to clarify one thing, you've got a background and you're like an elite athlete yourself. Do you have a focus on athletics and athletes in particular, or is it a broader population that you're working to appeal to?
It's a great question. Yeah, I would say from a business model perspective, you could argue that sport, just because it's a low hanging fruit for me and my connections, that yes, sport would be in our, if I even had a formal business model, kind of going against the grain on that. But anyways, that, yes, you could argue the target is athletics. We're getting into the first responder space now. And if I gave the real answer, I would say it's all different types of people. As an example, in our early years of building this out, our beta versions, yes, we would have the youth on the platform, but then all of a sudden we noticed that there were a ton of parents of those youth on the platform that weren't currently competitive elite athletes, that were benefiting from the resources and the tool that is Heroic Minds. So I believe at least to sparse out anxiety from performance anxiety in sport, I think is unbelievably difficult. what all that's changed is that you're standing on a baseball diamond or you're wearing hockey skates, but the effects of anxiety and the physiological, somatic, cognitive responses are still happening. So to think those are mutually exclusive, I think is difficult. Uh, it's targeted at athletes, but the other thing too is these athletes have other life challenges. They have challenges in relationships like we all do. They have challenges with school and homework and sleep and all these other things that they can also find support for on Heroic Minds.
That's great, Ben. That's such important work. I do want to just rewind a little bit. We're not here to, rehash your injury and everything that happened. But I personally watched the big hit for the first time, and it was really, really hard to watch. And I'm sure that seeing that is just so incredibly hard for you. And I think a lot of people might get stuck, right? We use this term like blocked, people who are blocked in life. And frankly, like you had not an excuse, but you had a reason to maybe stay blocked for the rest of your life, like this massive, tragic event. And so I think I'm curious about like, what was it about your mindset or your support, your resilience through that? Like, what was it that made you come back even stronger after that point?
Yeah, I really appreciate even how you asked that question. Um, there's a bunch of different variables. I would say that one of the biggest was the environment I was in. Um, to put things in perspective, and I think there's some other little aspects to you look at the environment, right? That I was in. So I was in this unbelievable community, not only Kitchener Waterloo, and for those listening outside in Ontario, Canada, not far from Toronto, I was in this unbelievable community. Very lucky that I'm still involved in the community today, to the point where if I tried to go buy a coffee at the Tim Hortons near the rink, they wouldn't let me pay for it. They said, "Hey, we're all pulling for you. We're cheering for you. We don't know if you're going to get back to playing, but hey, we're on your team. And by the way, this coffee's on us." Like that kind of stuff. So that's just the extent, right? You look at my advisor that I had, my coaches, my teammates, where the running assumption I think in sport is that we're all just numbers, and as soon as you're hurt or you're damaged goods, you're pushed to the side. And I think sometimes economically in the structure of sport and the business of sport, I think that can happen with or without malice intent, but that didn't happen to me. I All these people supported me as if I was going to be on that team and in that community for my entire life. So that was that. I think that's a big piece. Um, that's one. The other side, I would give a lot of kudos to my parents, not necessarily for I mean, of course, for everything they did for me, but just the dynamic between the two. Um, my dad is one that will dream a million dreams and think anything's possible. You could pull a lawnmower out of a underneath 500 pounds of garbage, and he'll be like, "Yeah, we'll get that thing started." And this has happened, believe me. And everyone's like, "No, you won't get it going." And then 3 days later, I get a video on my phone, and the thing's fired up, polished, perfectly new, and he probably sold it on Facebook Marketplace. Like he dreams that way, and is this pure optimist. The short story, I'm not sure if I told this at the Legacy event, when we were in the hospital, and it was getting to the precipice of the time at the hospital, seeing if I had to go in for brain surgery. We didn't know, so we were waiting on the most recent scans to determine if I was going to go in, and they were literally ready to push me into surgery, beads glued on my head. And my dad comes in and says, "I'm going to go pull up the van and get it warm so that when you get the good news that you don't have to get this surgery, we can get the heck out of here." And at the time, I was so overwhelmed and scared that I didn't appreciate the I think the conscious ability to choose to believe. And so anyways, I didn't need the surgery, thankfully, and very blessed for that. And yeah, there he was in the literally side door of the van open, waiting for my mom and I. Now on the flip side, my mom has a bit of that as well. My mom is also about, I was, the old saying, a little more straight and narrow, if you will. Like mom was in charge growing up. She would say she had three children growing up, me, my brother, and my dad. And I would posit, reflecting now with a little more understanding of life and people, et cetera, that they were a huge part of it too, that shaped me into someone that is willing and able and believes that they can take on responsibility and challenge on my mom's side, but also this ability to choose to believe that let's get scrappy and get this done and prove everyone wrong. And it's this kind of beautiful little situation there that the environment that I grew up in. Yeah, I would say those to me were the two biggest. And then of course you throw in just I don't know. I don't know if someone's up top. I don't know if this entity's all over us that guides us, but I think there was also just general luck involved too, that I was okay. And I think that's what steered me in the direction I've gone today with my life.
Man, I gotta tell you, I've been a hockey mom for 10 years now. And as a hockey mom, like I've thought about your mom so often as I listened to the different interviews. And I think you told a story. Didn't she offer to buy you a car to not go back to play hockey?
Yeah, true story. When we got the green light for me to be able to return to play, that was enough. Like given where we were 2 years before, life's going to be different. You're going to need all these supports, all this terrible news at the time. So 2 years later, I got the green light to play. We see these scans, the issues that were there in my initial scans are no longer there. Like that's enough of a success. That's amazing. We're so blessed, and let's go live now, right? And of course, I think I still had a bit of an obsession and need for hockey instead of just a want. And I wanted to step back in. I wanted to keep chasing it. And so there was a time period where the door was open. My head coach had said, you still have to make the team if you do get the green light to come back. And I think that was the right way to go. So we were debating, am I going to go back? Am I not going to go back? And yeah, she said, of course, for any other mothers listening, yeah, allow your child to go back out into that environment would be a little unnerving, I think. And her biggest nightmare came true. She said that growing up, she hated and used the word hate, which she seldomly does, hockey because of what she called the violence of it. And I can appreciate that. Thankfully, the game's moving in, I think, an awesome direction on that. But anyways, moment of choice came. And my mom said, Ben, if you choose to not go back, I'll buy you a brand new Mercedes Benz. And we didn't even have fancy stuff like that. Like I know now with the price of bread and trying to make ends meet and pay for things, it's like I know now doing the little napkin math, majority of their excess income went into my ability to play all these different sports and give me an incredible childhood. But yeah, that's what she said. And the funny thing is after that event, when I was walking in my car, it was someone working at the facility or I was walking out to the car and I hear this yell from across the parking lot. And the person said, you should have taken the deal and gotten the Mercedes as I walked into my, 2011 rusted out pickup truck.
I think I know my son well enough and he would have taken the car. Yeah.
But we talked about this, that he would have sold the car and taken the money and used it for something else.
The world around us is rapidly changing. Over the next 2 years, up to 60% of jobs are considered at risk of being replaced or significantly changed by AI. Now more than ever, the world needs more authenticity, more humanity, more you. That's exactly why we built Waypoint Retreat, but it's not your average retreat. This September, we're spending 3 days bringing together entrepreneurs, aspiring founders, creators, and changemakers to finally give their ideas the time and space they deserve. We'll hit pause and take a step back to enjoy the natural surroundings at a beautiful glamping resort just outside of Toronto. We'll get inspired to discover our inner rock stars and prioritize the legacy we want to leave behind. And the experience continues with 3 months of post support to help you take action. We're being intentional about who joins us. So if you've been carrying around an idea that you want to bring to life, we'd love to see you there. You can learn more at vienna-waits.com/retreat. Now, back to the episode.
I think you're like Whitney said, we just learning more about your story. But one of the things that you said in one of your talks that it punched me in the face in a really meaningful way was this idea of, in order to become, it was something to the effect, I'm going to misquote you, but something to the effect of, when you become the hero of your own story, it gives you the opportunity to become a hero for somebody else. And I think that in our culture, generally, we're afraid of becoming our own heroes because that just doesn't get celebrated in a way. But for you, I mean, that could have been it. That could have been your mountain. And you could have been the hero and talked about Ben Fanelli, the hockey player who came back and been celebrated. But something happened for you that led you to want to build heroic minds. Do you think heroic minds, because your hockey career is going to end at some point, but do you think heroic minds would have happened without that traumatic event, that hit, that setback? Would heroic minds, can you imagine that would have happened, or was there some growth that came out of that really terrible thing that you experienced?
Yeah, for once I can give a short answer. No, like I don't think at all, not even close. Um, I say this even to my clients, like those 2 years away from playing, I call it away from playing, even though I was with the team and endeavoring to get back and working out, doing all this stuff. Um, that was my introduction to psychology and philosophy, not only empirically and through literature and reading, but also being stuck, sitting in your room, stuck in your head, thinking, what the heck's going on and who am I going to be and what's going to happen and how are people going to look at me if I'm not this hockey player, if I'm not able to go back. And that's what I think kickstarted my curiosity for psychology, philosophy, human behavior. Again, and I would kind of argue, I think a lot of life is about heroic philosophy. You heard me kind of riff on that at the Legacy event. I think heroism's embedded in all our favorite stories and newspapers and movies and so on and so forth. And so yeah, I was supported by so many people, but the question becomes, well, why? They didn't know me. And it wasn't all, I didn't have the most points. I was not Connor McDavid. I was not even close to the best player, fanciest player on the Rangers through my 5 years. What the heck? Why? What's going on? And I would again choose to believe that I think when we see people doing heroic type things, if we define as trying to chase something compassionately and passion and with passion, uh, I think there's a human connection there beyond culture and language, etc., where other people want some of that energy. I think they kind of want to be involved. I just think there's a connection to each other that's so powerful. And I think we often assume it's the person with the biggest muscles, the most money, etc. However, this professor at Stanford, and of course now his name's going to slip my mind, it'll come up to me again at some point. He says the theory of evolution and being strong is actually built on a concept called altruistic reciprocity, where in simple terms, you do something for me, I do something for you. I do something for you, you don't do something for me. Well, thank God there's millions of other individuals I can create that bond with. And then you build this stronger and stronger army. And I think further, you build even those individual relationships to be stronger and stronger. And yeah, now you have an army at your back because life ain't easy. And so I know I have this incredibly powerful group of people around me and these relationships I've nurtured um, through this altruistic way of living that I think then you do have other people to lean on, rely on, wisdom, knowledge, experience, all these other great things you can get from other people uh, that can give us that extra little bit we need when the heavy rain comes, when the flood comes, when we fail, when we're down. And that brings us back to, you said, would heroic minds have existed? It used to be a joke. I used to joke with people and say, I wish I could bottle up what I had, what I received from the world around me, and give it to other people and say, hey, open this bottle. When the rainy day comes, open this bottle, you're going to be fine. And that's what we're trying to do with Heroic Minds. Like, oh, you need help. You don't want to tell anyone. You can't afford it. And it's awkward. And here, jump on Heroic Minds and go be the person that, you believe you could become. That's kind of the mission.
Mm. In our culture, so much the individual gets celebrated, but we're pack animals. Like at the end of the day, I think that altruistic reciprocity concept hits home in such a huge way. And I think one of the big things that we connected on was this idea of post-traumatic growth. And after a bad thing happens, there's these different areas that you can grow. And for you, one of those areas is just deeper relationships. And the way you just spoke about your parents and your coach and the people around you, that Tim Hortons, the people leaned in, and you had the opportunity to get such richness from that experience and experience growth just in that one dimension, but probably in all those others. I think that there's something so powerful about that, that when a bad thing happens, that's unfortunate and terrible, but to what Whitney was asking about before, there's so much good that can come from it if you do the work and if you choose to find your way through it.
Right. And I think one of the interesting things with the word traumatic, it's a common term now, right? That, oh, that's a traumatic experience. Well, you seeing something like you, and even all of us on this call right now, like you may experience something that you're like, whatever, water off a duck's back, let's keep going. Whereas if I experience it, I might be like, oh my gosh, Sash, you should have seen what happened today. Like with this whole traumatic idea, I'm going to quote other professionals in this space much smarter than me. The trauma occurs when an individual doesn't have the capacity in that acute experience to handle the demands that are on them. Whereas in other people's experiences of it, they might have the capacity or capability to handle it. And when they don't, there's opportunity to develop those skills though in the moment. Okay, so can I actually learn and grow within while this experience is live, it's happening real time? Can I learn, develop, and acquire the tools to overcome it, even if I don't have them at the onset? And I believe that to be true. I mean, I didn't, maybe my background a little bit that I touched on, but I think to your point, Greg, when you talk about these people leaning in, it was, oh yeah, my agent at the time, as an example, Rob Hooper, like there's advice on the financial piece, the life decision piece. Okay, boom, now I've got the capacity for that. All these guys I played with that were so selfless, they were about to step into the NHL within a year. They didn't have to care about me. They took time to support me. Okay, so I've got my network and my social group is still going to love me even if I'm not a hockey player. Boom, okay, that fills that. Yeah, and I think also bringing, Frank the Tank's idea, just dream and believe that it's freaking possible. Why not? And if it doesn't work, Bill Burr says that, right? He's been open about his, challenges in life. And I love his idea that what if you just chose to believe that everything was going to be okay? And then if it's not, choose to believe that you'll figure it out if it's not okay. It's like, that's not easy. I'm not saying I can even plug that in easily, but I try to. And I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so we I'm not sure if you know, Ben, but we run a program. It's called Unblock Yourself, and a lot of the work that we're trying to do, that we're doing, and is around helping people take action. Right? There's a thing they want to do in their life, and they're not doing it, and we're trying to shake people into action before they get that traumatic, event or the diagnosis or the wake up call. Like, take the action. And so I think you're doing similar-ish work. And so how do you help these high performing individuals or, these people level up their game and, help them to take action and choose growth without having to wait for that wake up call?
Amazing. Another amazing question. I think I've had some early success in this space because the way that if we're going to use the word help, the way that I support or help these individuals is a lot of our conversations are like this. They're not question answer, plug in this exercise, go home, do this. It's not symptom based. If you feel this, plug this in. It's a very, very high level. I say that my approach is discussing re-engineering our relationship with sport or our relationship with this pursuit. Not that I have a structure I follow every time, but generally one of the first conversations or the exercises is the monster under the bed, I call it. And we see this all the time. We have this structure in sport that I'm going to do this thing to get to this metaphorical top of the mountain. NCAA, NHL, MLB, PWHL. We have this. And so then our perception shapes our reality. So our perception is such, and we it's shaped by coaches, Gatorade commercials, Nike commercials, Sportsnet commercials that, hey, the top of the mountain exists. Your life is going to be perfect. You're going to have 25,000 screaming fans, millions of dollars. Life's going to be perfect. It's actually going to solve all your other problems if you get there, and everyone's going to love you forever, and it's going to be perfect. Well, we know that that's not true, right? We know that that's not true, but that's how these young and older athletes are seeing themselves and also seeing the world. So plug that into sport. Put 20 scouts in the stands with clipboards that those athletes know they're taking notes on their performance and their abilities and who they are. And then tell them to go be free. Go have fun, go be free, don't worry. That's what we hear. And then we say, just go be positive too and be confident. And we're going to teach you how to kind of manufacture confidence and plug it in manually, which we also know isn't true. And so when you get to the depth of performance anxiety, which is where most of my relationships begin with the individuals I'm lucky enough to work with, there's an exercise actually we learn in school called the why question. And you just keep asking why if you really want to get to the root of the problem, not the symptoms. Performance anxiety is the symptom. What's driving that? Well, maybe the fact that I'm 14 and I put 25 hours a week into this sport, believing that it has to work out or the other option is terrible. And so I'm not even actually going to think about the other option because that's too scary, which becomes the monster under the bed. So now, whether the athlete steps onto the track or onto the ice, no different than in this narrative, the child jumping into bed, staring at the ceiling for 5 hours, debating if there's a monster under the bed and if they're going to be okay if there is a monster under the bed. Same thing. We now jump into sport. We jump onto the track and we have this overwhelm and we'll just say, oh, it's because I'm not confident. It's like, well, we're missing an unbelievable opportunity to actually rejig where this problem actually begins. And so it's a lot of fun actually working with these clients and having these conversations. One, because they never have. And it's supposed to be dark and it's supposed to be uncomfortable. And I say that because it follows the same process. I say, why are you overthinking? I don't want to make a mistake. Why? Because if I make a mistake, I won't get opportunity. Why is that bad? Well, if I don't get opportunity, I won't play at the highest level. Why is that bad? Well, if I'm not playing at the highest level, I'll probably won't really play the sport anymore. Why is that bad? Well, because then I'm not playing the sport at all. And again, I say, why is that bad? And this is the best part, because here's what happens. Silence. We get to the root of the problem. It's like, well, what if I'm not playing sport? What happens? I have no idea. What is the driver of anxiety? Yearning for control of something we don't have control of. And it's like, well, okay, so what if we actually did the dirty, dark, uncomfortable work and got to a place where, hey, you know what, I'm going to go play this sport for me, not for mom and dad and the scouts and the money and all the other stuff. I'm going to actually learn to love the art and the beauty of this sport. And that's enough. That's going to invigorate me. Winning, losing, make it or not make it. I'm going to actually realize, one, there's something that can drive me more than just the end of the road. And I don't have to do it for other people. I can just do it for me. Because other people really don't care as much as we think they do. So let's just go play and have fun, which is what we know they all want to do. And last point I will say that to me is the most fascinating. Look at the best athletes today. Ovechkin. I don't know if there's hockey fans on your podcast. I would assume there are. He dances and raps in the tunnel before he steps onto NHL ice. Alcaraz, you can watch the Netflix documentary. The documentary, I think, is literally called My Way, because he says, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to try to make shots in competition that I probably can't make, but I'm going to try anyways because that's fun for me. Right? The list goes on. I'm going to mess his name up. This is my new favorite quote. Carl, I'm going to mess up his last name. Yastrzemski, I think. Baseball fans listening are going to be angry with me on that one.
Yeah, we don't know. You're fine.
Yeah, you get a pass from us. Don't worry.
Thank you. So amazing Hall of Fame baseball player. And he said, and I might even butcher the quote, but it'll get to the point. He says, every day I wake up, I think about baseball. I think about baseball all day long. The only time I don't think about baseball is when I'm playing it. And that is the money right there. You ask all these elite athletes or any children, teens that play too, ask them the same question. When you're playing your best, are you thinking about what other people think? No. Are you thinking about the future? No. Are you thinking about the past? No. You're just paying attention, but we don't practice that. Monday to Friday, we practice no mistakes, do it hard, look at the stats of the other team. We got to be better than this team. And then game day on Saturday rolls around. And what is the narrative now? Be free, have fun, don't worry. And it's like, wait, but we were doing all that Monday to Friday, but now I don't have to with all these people here watching and more pressure, external pressure. Yeah, trying to get to the root of where freedom comes from, and my approach is that comes from our perspective and relationship with what we're
Gold.
doing.
So much gold in that. I saw Greg like feverishly like writing notes. He wrote down so many things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We have a series of follow-up conversations to have. But in the spirit of that, Ben, so I think there would be so many advantages to anybody listening to this to go check out Heroic Minds if they're not working with a professional already or haven't had exposure to that. I think there's so many advantages. I have my own story of working with a counselor, and it's been transformative for me in my life, support for our kids, and it's transformative in their lives. So full endorsement of learning that path in that way. But if somebody hasn't necessarily been down that path before, working with a therapist or getting support from a coach, or maybe they've checked that box, and you wanted to give people one piece of advice who are listening to this, athlete or not, about how they might go from a place of feeling stuck to being free, and we call it being unblocked.
I will quote one of my favorite people in the space, Alan Watts, that one of the terms he uses a lot is join the dance. What I've learned from this individual is that what if we approached life, its feelings, its experiences that it brings us, not as things we actually hold? Because when we hold them, we carry them with us. What do we say? Carrying stress. And I think also when we carry them and then label them as good or bad, we have a bias now that we're stuck seeing it this way versus what if there are things that flow through us, even the positive things, right? Like love is in the eye of the beholder. And Alan Watts posits that you're not actually holding the love. You're just having the unbelievable opportunity of experiencing it as it flows through you. Happiness doesn't last forever. It comes, it goes, it's flowing through us. And so if we imagine we approached life that way, that even at the darkest times or these difficult times, as it's flowing through you, imagine what you could learn from it if we took off the bias and labeling it as bad and we said, this freaking sucks, this hurts, it's uncomfortable, it's scary. Whew, glad I'm not holding it. Oh, and he says, because that's all a part of the dance, right? So join the dance, like join the dance of life with all these different experiences. And he says, if you listen closely enough, even your pain can teach you or is trying to teach you how to be alive. And I just think it's such a different approach than what we see. Anxiety, bad, get rid of it, run from it, fight it, which is now we're holding it to try and fight this thing. And so, yeah, imagine we let these things flow through us and allow them to teach us things. And then the last point, you said a piece of advice. You said whether someone has done counseling or not, or they've engaged with this kind of work or not. I know I quote myself at a business when I say this. A large majority, we learn this in school, 70 to 80% of the outcomes in therapy are based on the therapeutic relationship, or what we would call the professional relationship. Well, you can have an incredible relationship with any other human being, one that is compassionate and kind and can listen. And so I would hope, I know, again, not everyone has this, so I don't want to sound ignorant. I would hope we can find a person like that in our lives. And a lot of the work, if you're the individual in the driver's seat trying to navigate these things, it doesn't, I don't think it has to be a professional that knows all these books and ideas and definitions. What about just someone that can listen and ask good questions as simple as why?
Well, that resonates so much for me because yeah, I definitely never did counseling or therapy or anything, and with everything I navigated, I think it was just people. I just had good people around me and people that were challenging me and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's just find your people. Then we have one closing question that we ask all of our podcast guests because we consume a lot of books, podcasts, and things. So, what is a book, a podcast, maybe several that you might recommend?
Okay, this one is just because it's timely. 4,000 weeks.
Are you kidding?
Why are you? Have you already read it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Hi-
It's so
Okay,
good.
listeners, Ben Fanelli just recommended you got to go listen or you got to go read. Yeah.
Now I feel like I'm looking at all my books here. I feel like I've got to pick a different one.
No. Why? Tell us why.
Well, because it goes. I think Whitney, you probably already know where I'm going to go with this. It's not the life hackish. How do we squeeze a sponge more hours and seconds and milliseconds out of our day to do more? It's more of getting to the root of the problem. It's like, well, what are we speeding up to do? And my favorite part of the book is like, well, what drove us to create the microwave and the airplane and the Wi-Fi and all this stuff was a desire to do things quicker. Okay, well, we got to that top of the mountain, then what are we doing? We don't have enough time. We've got to figure out how to package food up and snap a finger and the food's already ready. And now we need to fly faster and our trains need to be faster and the Wi-Fi needs to be quicker. And it's like, okay, so what drove us to want to do things quicker is going to drive us to want to do things quicker. And what was that Whitney called it? The efficiency paradox, I believe, if that's the right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so that's why I liked it. It's just it stops you in the tracks, and it's like I picked up this book because I think generally I want to save time. I want to do things faster, and he challenges that, and it's like for what? To want to do things faster after you do things faster, and so
Yeah.
it's a good read. Yeah.
It's hilarious. You think you're reading like, okay, I'm going to be more efficient with my time. And then it's like not what you get at all. It's it's awesome. So, yeah. We use that in our program. We do we tell people to read that. It's a good read. So,
Yeah, the notion that everything is a trade-off. Once you can, the idea we get taught to not settle, never settle, always go for gold for the best. But this notion that actually with every choice you're making, you're settling on the infinite number of other things you could be doing with your time.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, just settle.
Yeah.
Just be okay with it.
Yeah.
Ben, having this conversation with you feels like one that there could be so many more directions to take, and you've offered for anyone who chooses to listen to this so many just insights that I think are timeless, useful, and really practical. So thank you. If people wanted to go look you up, learn more about you, we'll certainly link to it in the show notes. But just if you could give some direction on where people can best find you or hear about what you're up to, we'd love to get that from you.
Yeah, if it's me personally, I mean, everyone knows how old Google works. It's Ben Fanelli, whether that or Instagram, Ben Fanelli. And then if it's Heroic Minds, right now, if you type in Heroic Minds on Google again, that'll bring you to our platform website. And my counseling practice, where I work with clients, is counseling.heroicminds.live. So again, you type any of that into Google and it should pop up.
Awesome. Ben, it's been, thank you so much for giving your time so generously, for settling, for being here with us today, and just offering all that wisdom. We appreciate it.
that was awesome.
No, thank you both. The questions, the preparation, everything was a pleasure. Your vibe, I know it's virtual, but you still get a vibe of people, and I can feel it, and it's awesome. Thank you both for what you do. Terrific. Wishing you endless success with the podcast and the program you're doing. It's awesome. So thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for listening to the Unblock Yourself podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow and rate the podcast. Your ratings and feedback mean the world to us. We'd love to stay connected with you via our bi-weekly newsletter called the VNF5, where we share ideas and advice that we found helpful on our own journey to live with more intention. You can also find us on LinkedIn and Instagram. For those Gen Z listeners out there, no, we're not on TikTok. But if enough of you ask for it, we'll just have to do it at some point. The links to find us on social are in the show notes. The Unblock Yourself podcast is edited and produced by Bespoke Productions Hub. Thank you for being here.